How do you start as a writer? That's a question I hear a lot of the time, and it's so simple. The answer could be a 30-second video. How do you become a writer? You sit down and you write, and you put words together, and then you write the end. However, it isn't that simple, because a lot of us are nervous, scared, worried. We get embarrassed about the idea of putting words to paper and saying, I'm a writer, or I'm a writer, or we're writers over here, because it's as if we are saying to ourselves and to other people as well, we want to be different, we want to be creative, to be inspired, to be driven by the purpose in our passion as creatives, as artists, as makers of written product that comes together because we sit down at the keyboard and we push the words forward. I thought this would be a simple video to make, and in truth, the message is really simple, but we have to look at the issues of what it is that causes us not to write when we know that that's actually what we want to do. I've put some notes down here and I've said how to start as a writer. You go to your keyboard, and either you work with a digital device such as my iPad and a little Logitech keyboard, or again I'm using a physical notebook and a good old-fashioned pen on that paper. But, and these are my notes that I've written down today, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to be nervous and worried, but don't be nervous and worried about what other people think. Be nervous when you want to get started as a writer that you don't give yourself the time and make it a priority to put the words on screen, to capture the words and bring those to paper so that you can say, I am writing. It takes a while to become a writer, but basically the process of adding words to page, that is part of the process of becoming a writer. How do you get started as a writer? You do sit down at your desk, at your kitchen table, at a booth in the library, and you start to write. Something that causes us to delay the process of being a regular writer, and that's where the difference starts to happen and starts to take place. Becoming a regular writer, becoming a consistent person in your writing habit, that's the best way for you to become a writer. There will be foibles or quirks along the way. Sometimes when I cannot get into my head that I need to write today, I have to distract myself from other things that are happening, and I have to focus just on the process of capturing those words. One of the little quirks I use is I put on a little bucket hat, and in a way that kind of blocks out the rest of the world. It looks crazy, but nobody's watching. In my studio with my bucket hat on, and that says I'm writing, I'm focused, I'm effectively cutting out the rest of the world and saying it's busy time, let's add words to paper. Other little foibles, you can put music on, you can have total silence, you can give yourself a bunch of regular coffee or soft drinks or cups of tea to say, okay, I've put the kettle on, I've made myself a cup of tea, and this is my writing time until this drink goes cold. For me, 30 minutes with a cup of coffee, and I can get 300, 400 words captured, and I know I'm on track. How do you get started writing? It comes down to allocating the time, to giving yourself the time to sit and write. I have a few index cards that I will often have on my desk when I'm writing. Not all of the same ones at the same time, but I'll often have one on my desk when I'm writing to remind me that this is a process that I'm committed to, even though it can be difficult, it can be damned hard work, it can be frustrating to think that I'm making any progress. Here's one by Eric Edson. It's great. Write badly with pride. That will get you through plenty of frustrating situations where you don't know what to write, or you have a sense of what your story is and how those words will come together. But what he's saying there is just write. Don't analyze, don't self-edit. A lot of new writers will make the mistake, and I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt. We make the mistake of thinking, oh, it needs to be perfect. Let me write 3 or 4 sentences and then go back and edit them. No, forget that. That is the worst possible way of writing to a point where you feel you've achieved something. No, write, capture the words, get them all down on screen on your keyboard, and when you finish the project, when you finish the short story, go back and edit it. When you're writing a larger book, whether it's non-fiction or a piece of fiction, it's up to you, but right now you're looking to start as a writer. Don't spend a lot of time or lose a lot of time in the process of back editing on what you've written. As you become more experienced, as you get more adept at this process of putting the words down and bringing them together in a format that you will like and be happy with before your readers like and become happy with, capturing the words first is the most important thing. You can edit later. Get the work done now and then go through the edit process, but don't use research and don't use heavy editing at the beginning of your writing process as a way of basically procrastinating and stopping yourself seeing the progress that you deserve, one which of course you actually want. First attempts at writing are not supposed to be pretty. They can be painful to read back afterwards, but you're practicing. Pick up the pen and fill a journal, fill a couple of pages in a workbook, and start to see that the words are accumulating and becoming something. First writing is not supposed to be good. It's not supposed to be even mediocre. It's just you getting the words out of here, dumping them on paper, and creating something that tomorrow or next week you can go back and read and think, blimey, that was terrible. Or, okay, that's not so bad. What can I do that's different this time around, and how can I make it better in the second version of that story? Or how can I create something fresh from scratch and learn from what I created the previous week, but be happy with the improvement as I find my way forward with this new manuscript or this new poem or this new short story that I'm creating. Something else we can do when we're starting out on our writing journey is worry about what other people think. Who cares what other people think? Right now, what you need to do, what you need to focus on, is finding your voice. And the only way you're going to find that is by capturing words, putting them on paper, adding to the keyboard. There is no other way to write than to write. There are no shortcuts. And the process, as I read from Eric Edson, is we write badly with pride. That allows us to bring the words to page and start to see that we are creating something we can be proud of and which we can go back to when it's appropriate. Until your ideas are out and you've put them down and you've captured them, don't edit, don't go back and do that subsequent research, don't get involved in that. One of the things that we love about writing, and also one of the things that we can come to dislike about the writing process, is that it is such a private act. It's you with your keyboard or you with your notebook and your pen. That's it. You can be in a room of 100 people in a library or 40 or 50 people in your local coffee shop, but really all that's going on is you being focused and capturing words. There is nothing else. The sharing happens later. One thing I would suggest as you're starting out in your writing is don't be afraid to be alone in the writing process. The whole thing about goals is that they are private, and as you work towards your early writing goals, you are the only person who needs to be aware of what they are and how you're making progress or not making progress until the point that you think, no, I'm happy with this, I'm proud of it, it feels tidy and clean and not necessarily polished, but it's ready for me to ask the opinion of somebody else or to share it. Something you might find useful in your writing journey is to take part in a critique group. I'm not early in my writing journey. My 10th book gets published fairly soon, and that will mean I have 6 current books all in print in my existing catalogue and selling regularly to people who are interested in the topics that I write about, but I'm taking part in a critique group because I'm new to the idea of publishing fiction, of seeing a story, a novel in print and being ready for a larger audience, perhaps than my non-fiction books. But it's a completely different audience. It's a very different landscape within which to write. And so I'm finding, as a new fiction writer, that a critique group is really helpful. I think I would have found it much more useful to create my early non-fiction books had I had the opportunity, or perhaps had the presence of mind, to take part in a critique group where just half a dozen of us can share an extract, maybe 1,000 words or a partial chapter from a new story or a new piece of non-fiction. And I think I could have benefited greatly by welcoming other people's opinions, because what I've found so far in the months that I've been in this current critique group are that I'm learning significantly from the things that other people say in a friendly and a safe environment, all done by Zoom. I'm receiving fairly well what other people are saying, because most of the time they're actually right. And I can learn from that as a new fiction writer. As a new writer wanting to claim for yourself this wonderful thing called writing, you're going to have to get over the whole idea of procrastination. How long have you waited to write on a consistent basis? Have you waited a year, 5 years, longer? Don't procrastinate. Start writing today. You're here on YouTube and you're watching my video and hopefully other videos by writers who want to encourage you to bring your work first to screen. Realize that there is no better time than today to create your written output. You don't become a writer other than by writing. We write one paragraph at a time and then we move on to the next one, and within a matter of time, whether it's half an hour or a couple of hours, we have a series of paragraphs and we've created a few pages. And it's from those pages that if you read them back, you think, okay, I've got 400, 500, 600 words here. You've got a couple of pages, and then you've got something that you can say, okay, I can see what my writing voice is. I can see where my style is starting to take form and to have shape to the way the words are created and brought together. And from that, you can start to think, is this the style I want to go with? Is it the method of writing and putting my words together that I'm most happy with? Or is there a different style or a different format to the way that I will populate the words in my story? But it all comes down to you writing. Remember what I said before? You allocate time and you say, okay, I will write for this half hour, I'll write for this hour, and you capture the words. You can spend dozens of hours online looking for, how do I get started as a writer? This is how you get started as a writer. You take the cap off your pen, you put it on the back of the barrel, and you start to write. And you grab your journal or your work notebook and you bring the ideas together. Today I wrote 517 words in 40 minutes for something that needed to be the postscript or the closing page, 2 pages in fact, of a recently finished book. That small amount of just over 500 words, that's a great consistent daily goal for writing, and you become a writer through consistent writing. You can't call yourself a writer by saying, oh, I wrote 650 words 3 weeks ago. No, there is a process that you need to go through, and you can do it. It's very simple. Being a writer is the simplest thing I've ever done. It's also the most difficult and demanding. However, it's the most emotionally rewarding. You want to be a writer and you want to get started with regular writing. So take control of your diary. Make each block of time that you choose for yourself your time in which to say, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 hour today. I'm going to sit down at 6 o'clock this evening and I'm going to write. Don't worry about what you write. You may have a theme in mind. You may have an idea that you wish to write around. That's fine. If you don't, it doesn't matter. Sit down and write about your day. grab your pen and put words on paper about your journey to and from work this week. Write 500 words about a member of your family. Give yourself a really simple prompt and allocate the time to that process of writing and capture the words. Another message I have on my desk is this one. Writing is hard, creating is hard, by Carl Iglesias. We have to remind ourselves that writing is not this romantic spirit of living in a garret on the banks of the River Seine in Paris and writing by candlelight and for having that one book that will be a breakout novel that the whole world will want to read in multiple translations. No, writing is the process of, in a very boring, consistent way, sitting in the library or going to your local coffee shop, opening your keyboard and your device and capturing words. It's as hard as that, or it's as simple as that. You want to be a writer, you want to start writing, so start today. Today is all you have. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow in your diary or your schedule or the complications that life presents to us. If the idea of becoming a writer is important to you, then treat the project of crafting words and bringing words together as the most important process that you can add time and energy to. If you've been waiting a long time, whether it's months or years, and writing is something you wish to do and you wish to be happy with and potentially successful at, then start today. Wherever you are today, enjoy the process. Happy writing.